The world stood on the precipice of change. It was a time of great empires and technological marvels. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered. These tensions would soon erupt, plunging the world into a conflict unlike any before it. World War I. From 1914 to 1918, the Great War, as it came to be known, would reshape the world map and leave an indelible mark on the 20th century. Millions of soldiers and civilians would perish in the conflict, forever altering the course of human history. This war, driven by nationalistic fervor, imperial ambitions, and a complex web of alliances, would see the world's great powers clash in a brutal struggle for dominance. On one side stood the Allied powers, led by France, Great Britain, and Russia. They were joined later by Italy and eventually the United States. On the other side stood the Central Powers, dominated by Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. What began as a localized conflict in the Balkans soon engulfed all of Europe and spread to other continents. To understand the outbreak of World War I, one must first delve into the intricate system of alliances that had developed in the preceding decades. Europe, at the dawn of the 20th century, was a network of pacts and agreements, many of them secret, that obligated nations to come to each other's aid in the event of war. These alliances, meant to deter aggression, instead created a climate of suspicion and mistrust. The Triple Entente, formed in 1907, united France, Great Britain and Russia in a powerful counterweight to the growing strength of Germany. Germany, in turn, had formed its own alliance with Austria, Hungary and Italy, known as the Triple Alliance. These alliances, intended to maintain a balance of power, ironically set the stage for a continental war. When a single event threatened to upset this delicate balance, the entire system of alliances was set in motion, like a line of dominoes toppling one after another. The spark that ignited the powder keg came on June 28, 1914, in the city of Sarajevo. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, and his wife Sophie were assassinated by a Serbian nationalist named Gavrilo Princip. Austria-Hungary, outraged by the assassination, blamed Serbia and issued an ultimatum containing a series of harsh demands. Serbia, fearing an invasion, appealed to Russia for support. When Serbia failed to meet all of Austria-Hungary's demands, Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia on July 28, 1914. Russia, honoring its alliance with Serbia, began mobilizing its army. Germany, bound by treaty to defend Austria-Hungary, viewed the Russian mobilization as a threat and declared war on Russia on August 1, 1914. 2 days later, Germany declared war on France, Russia's ally. The Great War had begun. The early months of the war saw a rapid German advance through Belgium and into France. The German plan, known as the Schlieffen Plan, called for a swift knockout blow against France before Russia could fully mobilize its forces. However, the German advance was halted at the First Battle of the Marne in September 1914. The war on the Western Front then settled into a brutal stalemate, characterized by trench warfare. Both sides dug elaborate trench systems that stretched for hundreds of miles across France. The area between the trenches, known as no man's land, became a nightmarish landscape of barbed wire, mud and death. Attacks were often met with withering machine gun fire and artillery bombardments, resulting in horrific casualties. Millions of soldiers would perish in futile attempts to break through the enemy lines. Section 5. The Eastern Front and the Collapse of Empires. While the Western Front devolved into a bloody stalemate, the war on the Eastern Front was characterized by greater mobility and even greater brutality. Russia, with its vast manpower reserves, initially posed a formidable challenge to the Central Powers. However, the Russian army was poorly equipped and led. The war on the Eastern Front would have a profound impact on the course of the 20th century. The Russian Revolution of 1917, sparked in part by the hardships of the war, led to Russia's withdrawal from the conflict and the rise of the Soviet Union. The collapse of the Austro-Hungarian and Ottoman empires at the end of the war would redraw the map of Eastern Europe and the Middle East. Section 6. Technological Advancements and the Horrors of War. World War I was a conflict unlike any before it, marked by unprecedented levels of carnage and destruction. This was due in part to the advent of new technologies that revolutionized warfare. The machine gun, for example, made it possible for a single soldier to mow down dozens of attackers. The tank, first introduced by the British in 1916, broke the stalemate of trench warfare, but at a terrible cost. Chemical weapons such as mustard gas and chlorine gas were used on a large scale for the first time, inflicting agonizing deaths and leaving lasting psychological scars on survivors. These technological advancements, intended to break the stalemate, only added to the horrors of the war. The war also saw the widespread use of airplanes in combat for the first time. Section 7. America enters the fray. For the first 3 years of the war, the United States remained neutral. However, a series of events, including the sinking of the Lusitania, a British passenger ship, by a German U-boat in 1915, and the Zimmermann telegram, a secret diplomatic cable intercepted by the British in which Germany proposed an alliance with Mexico against the United States, gradually shifted American public opinion in favor of intervention. In April 1917, the United States declared war on Germany, citing Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare and its attempts to incite Mexico to attack the United States. The entry of the United States into the war with its vast industrial and military might would prove to be a turning point in the conflict. Section 8. The collapse of the Central Powers. By 1918, the Central Powers were on the verge of collapse. Years of relentless fighting, coupled with food shortages and economic hardship on the home front, had taken their toll. In November 1918, Germany, facing imminent defeat, signed an armistice with the Allies. The guns finally fell silent on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The war was over, but its impact would be felt for generations to come. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war, but imposed harsh penalties on Germany, including territorial losses, disarmament, and crippling reparations payments. Many historians believe that the treaty's punitive measures contributed to the rise of extremism in Germany and helped set the stage for World War II. Section 9. The war to end. All wars. World War I, the war to end all wars, as it was tragically known, had claimed the lives of an estimated 15 to 22 million people. It had shattered empires, redrawn the map of Europe, and left a legacy of bitterness and resentment. The war's end also saw the emergence of a new global superpower, the United States. The world had entered the 20th century with a sense of optimism and progress. It emerged from World War I a much different place, disillusioned, fractured, and forever scarred by the horrors it had witnessed. The Great War was a watershed moment in human history, marking the end of an era and the beginning of a new and uncertain future. Sadly, the war to end all wars had sown the seeds for future conflicts.